Okay, so I decided to go ahead and make an incredibly cold hot take here. Basically, I just wanted to talk about console exclusives or just exclusive games in general. So I'm guessing you already heard, but Phil Spencer was replaced at Microsoft Gaming, and the new CEO, Asha Sharma, had made a post that was going around just a little while ago here. I already did a video on the replacement of CEO, so if you want to check out that video, I'll make sure that there's a link or a pop up here for you. So the post that sort of got me thinking about this was a post on X by Alejandro here, and he says, "Hi, Ashishar. As the new Xbox CEO, I hope you understand how important exclusive games are and how games like Halo, Forza, Gears, Fable created an identity for Xbox and its players, becoming a key point for Xbox's success. Xbox games must be only on Xbox." And she simply replied with, "Hear you." So that got me thinking about exclusives in general, and not just Xbox, but PlayStation, everything, like all the exclusives. And I know that this topic has been kind of beaten to death, but since it's coming up again and people are still talking about it, I figured I may as well make a quick little video giving my opinion on all of this. So, as far as the exclusives go, I don't really understand the consumer perspective that's pro exclusives here. I totally get it from the industry or the manufacturer standpoint. Like, obviously, if you have a huge or a pretty good, anyway, exclusive library for your console or your machine, then obviously that's going to drive people to buying your console over your competitor because they can only play certain games. Maybe you have some really good games that people really want to play. They can only get that on your console, so then they have to buy your console. So yeah, that totally makes sense to me. I get it from their perspective. But from the consumer perspective, I just don't understand where this idea of really needing exclusives comes from. Like, other than having tribalism and, my console has games that you can't play, I don't really get where the attitude that exclusives are a good thing comes from. All the exclusives are doing for you is meaning that if you have one console and not the other, you don't get to play the games on the competing console. It doesn't really do anything for you in a positive way. There's only ever a negative from a consumer standpoint. Like, if you have the games on, say there's games that are much better or that people really enjoy, that you really enjoy, that are exclusive to the console that you own, how does that benefit you in any way? Again, other than just reinforcing people's sort of tribalist tendencies, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I've never gotten it. Ever since the old console wars, I haven't gotten it. Like, in my opinion, the console itself should be what sells the console. So if there's certain features on the console, like the way that it operates, its UI, that sort of thing, then that's kind of the identity of the console, if you will. Whereas the game library itself, if it's more accessible to other players on other platforms, I don't see that as a negative in any way for a consumer. I've heard the idea thrown around that somehow exclusives are making things more competitive and then game developers end up producing better quality content. And I don't really get that either. If everything is multi platform, then they're basically competing against every other game dev. So you have the maximum amount of competition. If they're an exclusive to a certain machine or a certain brand or console, then they're only competing against those other games that are also developed for that console. I guess they're also trying to compete so that they're making the best quality game if they're owned by that company. Like, if Xbox, say, if Microsoft owns the game studio as well as the console itself, then you could say that, well, they're going to push more resources, more money into that game dev so that they can produce a game that everybody really wants to play, and then people are going to switch over to buying an Xbox. And you could make the same argument with Sony or whatever console you want to pick out here. And to an extent, I sort of see that, but also, I don't know. I'm not sure if that really makes a game better. I find that the best games are usually just made by people that are passionate about the particular game that they're making, not some corporate overlord who's telling them, hey, you got to make a game that's really good so that we can steal our competitors' market and have them buy our machine. I'm not sure if that's ever been really a key factor in a good or a great game being developed. I don't think so. I think it's mostly, if anything, I kind of feel like that attitude only ever really promotes money sinks or games that are the games as a service sort of attitude, where they just try to siphon as much money out of a customer as possible because they need to make back their investment that they put in. So things like the predatory DLCs or subscription based models, that sort of thing. And, call me old school, but I really do miss the ideas when making horse armor was mocked mercilessly. Like, I'm not a huge fan. Again, this is another extremely cold hot take. But I'm not a huge fan of any of this live service, any of this subscription based or huge DLCs, that kind of thing. Basically, stuff that should have been in the game to begin with, but they feed it to you in a drip, IV drip, so that you have to pay for each one of those little drops of content that gets added to the game. But I'm kind of going wildly off topic here. That's not really what I want to talk about. I could go more into that if you guys are interested, but that's not really the topic of the video today. Overall, I just really don't see how exclusives could be considered a good thing from a consumer perspective. I've been mostly focusing on Xbox and looking at this from a Microsoft or an Xbox perspective, just because of this post that sort of brought this about for me and made me think about it. But anything that I've said, you could extrapolate and apply that to any machine, any platform, any company, whatever you want, like whoever you want to look at for exclusives. Yeah, you could apply it to them. Aside from being competitive, having a console that's competitive and a manufacturer or a company that's competitive, if you own, say you own an Xbox and you're worried that, you've put some money you've invested into expanding your library with that one particular company, and then you're concerned about the sales because you want to make sure that they keep making consoles so that your library isn't basically going to become obsolete at some point. Like, if they stop making them, then your library is no longer going to keep continuing with the new consoles that come out. So aside from that particular argument, I don't really see how it's a benefit to anyone. Obviously, you could just use your old console to play those games. Like, in the event that a new console or a new generation of consoles come out and they don't make a new console, then you're not able to transfer your library along with your account. But yeah, you probably have the old console and you can still play those games. I have a bunch of older consoles with a bunch of older game libraries, and I still play those. I still enjoy them, and I don't really see the problem. But it seems like people have always been and are still very passionate about this exclusives thing, and maybe there's something that I haven't considered. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. If you agree with me, then great, let me know. But also, if you disagree, I want to know what your opinion is, and maybe you can change my mind on it because I just don't see it. I've thought about this, and anytime I see posts that are, oh, we need more exclusives or this or that, I never understand the consumer perspective on it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I prefer if I have access to more games on my particular machine, and I don't really feel anything positive if someone doesn't have access to a game because they don't own the machine that I have. That really doesn't do anything for me. And honestly, if you've seen any of my reviews, you've seen anything on my channel, you know that my whole thing is trying to get as many games out to gamers. Basically, I try to review things in a way that if all you've heard is a bunch of popular reviewers all with the exact same opinion about a thing, I try to do things in a more objective way so that you can find something that maybe you would have had an otherwise corrupted attitude towards it. Like, you would have had the attitude that everybody else has without actually trying the game or seeing the game because you've only seen one perspective on it. I try to be as neutral as possible just so that you can get an idea for yourself, and then maybe you'll give it a try even if it's not the most popular game out there, and maybe you'll enjoy it. It's not done to cope, as a lot of people say, or done to promote crappy games. Maybe I hate the game. It could be something that a lot of people dislike, and I dislike it as well. But honestly, there's going to be somebody who does enjoy it, and that's what I'm doing the review for, in a more neutral way. I always give my own opinion because, yeah, I know a lot of people, that's all they care about. But really, the main focus is just to get people connected with games. And that whole sort of mantra that I have, that whole core concept behind the channel, is just to allow more people to connect with games that they would enjoy. So obviously, I think it's pretty clear that I'm going to be against exclusives. But yeah, maybe there's something that I haven't considered that you know that I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. At the end of the day, my summarized attitude is that I think people having more access to more things is a net positive. And yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about. Just basically just giving my opinion on this. I kept seeing this in a bunch of feeds, so I wanted to talk about it and see what your guys' thoughts were as well. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope to see you in the next one. Till then, take care.